September 1944, somewhere in the Belgian countryside near the German border. A British gunner crouches beside what looks like a piece of industrial scaffolding bolted to a truck bed. No guidance system, no sophisticated electronics, just a length of welded steel tubing pointed at a grid reference 11,000 yards away. He checks his watch, confirms the firing pattern, and pulls the lanyard. A 60-pound rocket screams off the rail with a sound witnesses compared to tearing canvas, amplified 1,000 times. Then another. Then another. Within 90 seconds, his launcher has sent 32 rockets downrange. The truck is already moving before the last one impacts. 11 miles away, an entire German battalion position ceases to exist as functional military unit. No warning. No time to take cover. Just sudden, overwhelming violence delivered by what German soldiers called moaning minis and feared more than almost any other weapon in the Allied arsenal. This is the British land mattress. The rocket system so crude that American observers initially dismissed it as barely better than medieval siege equipment. And over the next 8 months, this primitive weapon will break German defensive positions that conventional artillery struggled against for days, doing it in minutes with a fraction of the ammunition expenditure. To understand why the British built something this unsophisticated, you need to understand the problem they couldn't solve any other way. By mid-1944, according to British Army operational research reports, conventional artillery faced a critical limitation that no amount of precision could overcome. A standard 25-pounder field gun, the backbone of British artillery, could deliver accurate fire at ranges exceeding 13,000 yards, but it fired one shell every few seconds. Even a full battery of 8 guns working in perfect coordination could only put 30 to 40 shells on target per minute. Against fortified positions or dispersed infantry, that rate of fire meant prolonged bombardments lasting hours or even days. German forces learned to recognize the pattern. Artillery preparation meant attack was coming. They could move reserves, reinforce threatened sectors, or simply take cover in prepared bunkers until the shelling stopped. The mathematics were punishing. British and American forces in Normandy expended an average of 5,000 artillery shells per square kilometer during major offenses. Despite this massive expenditure, German units frequently survived bombardments with fighting strength largely intact. Bunkers protected personnel, dispersion reduced casualties, and the time required to deliver that volume of fire gave defenders hours to adapt. The British needed something different, not more accurate, not longer ranged, but capable of delivering overwhelming violence so quickly that an enemy position would be destroyed before anyone inside could react. The solution emerged from an unlikely source. During 1943, the Royal Navy had developed a rocket-based anti-aircraft weapon called the UP-3, or Unrotated Projectile Mark III. It was designed to fire salvos of rockets at German aircraft attacking convoys. The accuracy was terrible by conventional standards. But against massed bomber formations, putting hundreds of explosive projectiles into the air simultaneously created a lethal volume of fire that didn't require precision. Individual rockets might miss. The cloud of shrapnel they created didn't. Someone at the projectile development establishment at Fort Halstead asked a question that seems obvious in retrospect but required genuinely lateral thinking at the time. If these rockets could saturate airspace against aircraft, could they saturate ground positions against infantry? The concept was tested in late 1943 using modified naval rocket projectors mounted on Canadian military pattern trucks. The results, according to declassified British Army operational research documents, were striking enough to justify immediate production. A single launcher carrying 32 rockets could deliver the explosive equivalent of a full artillery battery's sustained fire for 3 minutes and deliver it in 90 seconds. The weight of fire wasn't concentrated over time. It arrived essentially simultaneously. The Canadian Army tested the system first during operations in Northwest Europe. The name mattress came from the appearance of the launcher, a flat rack of tubular rails laid horizontally on a truck bed, resembling an old-fashioned mattress frame. Officially designated the rocket projector 5-inch land mattress Mark I, it entered service with British and Canadian forces in autumn 1944. The weapon itself was almost comically simple compared to contemporary artillery. Each launcher consisted of 32 steel tubes, each 6 feet long, arranged in 4 rows of 8. The tubes were welded to a steel frame that could traverse 15 degrees left or right and elevate from 23 to 45 degrees. The entire assembly was bolted to the bed of a 3-ton truck. Total weight of the launcher, empty, was approximately 2,200 pounds. The rockets themselves were even more straightforward. A 5-inch diameter steel tube containing 9 pounds of amatol explosive in the warhead, propelled by a cordite motor producing roughly 1,600 pounds of thrust. No guidance fins beyond simple stabilizers, no proximity fuse. Just a contact detonator and enough propellant to reach maximum range of 7,500 yards, though effective range against area targets was closer to 6,000. Each rocket weighed 60 pounds fully loaded. A trained crew could reload the entire 32-tube launcher in approximately 5 minutes using a simple crane mounted on the truck. But here's what made it genuinely devastating, and why German forces learned to fear it. The land mattress didn't fire all 32 rockets at once. It fired in a ripple sequence, launching one rocket every fraction of a second to prevent the entire structure from tearing itself apart from recoil. This created what British after-action reports described as a walking barrage effect. The first rocket would impact, then the second a few meters away, then the third, creating a curtain of explosions that swept across the target area. A single launcher firing a full load would saturate approximately 400 by 200 meters, roughly 8 acres, with high explosive and fragmentation in less than 2 minutes. Anything caught in that beaten zone, troops in the open, vehicles, field fortifications, soft skin supply dumps, ceased to function. The psychological effect was equally important. According to German prisoner interrogation reports compiled by British intelligence, soldiers described the experience as unlike conventional artillery. Shells arrived with warning. The whistle of incoming rounds gave seconds to take cover. Land mattress salvos gave no warning. The first indication was impact. By the time you heard the sound, the bombardment was already over. The first major combat employment came during the Battle of the Scheldt in October and November 1944. Canadian forces were tasked with clearing German positions along the Scheldt estuary to open the port of Antwerp for Allied use. German forces held extensively fortified positions on Walcheren Island and the surrounding areas, including concrete bunkers, flooded fields, and prepared defensive lines that conventional artillery struggled to suppress effectively. Land mattress batteries, operated by the 1st Canadian Rocket Battery, provided fire support during the amphibious assault on Walcheren on November 1, 1944. According to Canadian battle reports, rocket barrages were used to suppress German defensive positions immediately before landing craft reached the shore. The rapidity of fire delivery meant German machine gun crews had no time to reoccupy positions between the end of the bombardment and the arrival of assault troops, a gap that conventional artillery barrages inevitably created. The effectiveness was measured not just in destroyed positions but in captured territory per shell expended. During the Rhineland campaign in February and March 1945, British operational research analysts compared ammunition expenditure between conventional artillery and land mattress systems during similar operations. A typical artillery preparation for a battalion-sized attack consumed between 3,000 and 5,000 rounds of 25-pounder ammunition, weighing approximately 25 pounds per shell. Total weight delivered on target, roughly 75,000 to 125,000 pounds of projectile. A land mattress battery of 8 launchers firing 2 full salvos each delivered 512 rockets, totaling approximately 3,720 pounds of projectile weight. But with nearly 4,600 pounds of high explosive in the warheads themselves, delivered in under 4 minutes total. The exchange rate was extraordinary. Less total ammunition weight, far higher concentration of explosive effect, delivered in a fraction of the time. But the system had significant limitations that prevented it from replacing conventional artillery entirely. Accuracy was genuinely poor. Individual rockets could land anywhere within a 200-meter radius of the aim point at maximum range. This made the land mattress useless for precision fire missions or danger close support. You couldn't use it when friendly troops were anywhere near the target area. The minimum safe distance was approximately 500 meters, compared to 200 meters for conventional artillery. Reload time was another constraint. 5 minutes to reload a launcher meant sustained fire was impossible. Once a battery fired its initial salvo, it was effectively out of action for the duration of an engagement, unless pre-positioned ammunition was immediately available. Weather affected the rockets far more severely than conventional shells. Crosswinds could push the unguided projectiles significantly off course, and the visual signature was enormous. The rocket motors produced a massive plume of flame and smoke visible for miles. Firing a land mattress battery immediately revealed your position to every enemy observer within visual range. German counter-battery fire was almost guaranteed within minutes. Yet, despite these limitations, the weapon found its niche. It excelled at exactly one mission, delivering overwhelming suppressive fire against area targets before an assault. And it did that mission better than anything else the British Army fielded. During Operation Veritable, the British and Canadian offensive into the Rhineland in February 1945, land mattress batteries were used extensively during the initial breakthrough operations against the Siegfried Line defenses. German positions in the Reichswald forest were heavily fortified with concrete bunkers, interconnected trenches, and extensive minefields. Conventional artillery struggled to achieve suppression because troops could take cover in bunkers during bombardment and re-emerge once firing stopped. Land mattress salvos, fired in coordination with artillery, created a brief but absolute saturation that gave German defenders no time to react. British after-action reports noted that infantry casualties during assaults immediately following rocket barrages were measurably lower than during assaults following conventional artillery. Preparation alone. The total number of land mattress systems produced remains somewhat unclear in available records, but production figures suggest approximately 3,000 launchers were manufactured between 1944 and 1945. The majority were used by British and Canadian forces in northwest Europe, though some were deployed to Italian theatre units as well. Unlike many wartime innovations that saw limited use, the land mattress was employed regularly whenever its specific capabilities matched operational requirements. By April 1945, according to British Army unit records, nearly every infantry division in 21st Army Group had access to attached land mattress batteries for major operations. What makes this weapon particularly notable is what other nations didn't have. The Soviet Union developed the Katyusha rocket system, entering service in 1939, well before the land mattress. The BM-13 launcher mounted on a truck carried 16 rockets and operated on similar principles, massed unguided fire for area saturation. But Soviet rockets were primarily used for offensive barrages at operational scale, entire batteries firing simultaneously to support major attacks. The Germans developed the Nebelwerfer rocket launcher, which also fired area saturation salvos, but it was towed artillery rather than truck-mounted, limiting mobility. American forces experimented with rocket artillery but didn't deploy truck-mounted systems comparable to the land mattress until the T-34 Calliope, which mounted rockets on a Sherman tank and was used more for psychological effect than tactical necessity. The British innovation wasn't inventing the rocket launcher. It was recognizing that a crude, inaccurate weapon firing cheap, simple rockets could achieve a specific tactical effect: rapid area suppression, more effectively than expensive, accurate conventional artillery, and then deploying it specifically for that role rather than trying to make it do everything. This is operational thinking at its clearest. Match the weapon to the mission. Don't waste precision tools on area problems. The legacy of the land mattress ended relatively quickly. By 1946, most launchers were scrapped or placed in storage. The weapon was too specialized for peacetime armies, too limited in capability to justify maintaining infantry and training crews. But the concept survived. Modern multiple rocket launcher systems, like the British Army's current GMLRS, guided multiple launch rocket system, trace direct lineage to these crude World War II area saturation weapons. The difference is guidance. Contemporary rockets can hit within 5 meters of a target at 70 kilometers. Land mattress rockets were happy to land within 200 meters at 7 kilometers. But the tactical logic is identical. Deliver overwhelming fire faster than the enemy can react. That crude rack of steel tubes bolted to a truck bed, the one that looked like it belonged in the scrapyard rather than on a battlefield, turned out to be exactly what British and Canadian infantry needed when facing prepared German defensive positions. 32 rockets, 90 seconds, 8 acres of ground turned into a kill zone before anyone inside could take cover. Germany spent years building the Siegfried Line fortifications that anchored their western defense. Britain spent months building a weapon that could suppress those fortifications long enough for infantry to close and destroy them. That's not primitive technology. That's operational innovation. Taking the simplest possible solution, unguided rockets fired from welded tubes, and using it so effectively that the enemy feared it more than weapons 10 times more sophisticated. The land mattress proved that sometimes the crudest weapon, applied at exactly the right moment, delivers results no amount of precision can match.